Welcome back, everyone. Today we are back at the sawmill with these two big Ponderosa pine logs. Maybe you've heard the saying, tougher than an old pine knot. Well, these two logs have some very big knots in them. Some big knots with some really big knot swells. This one's almost 7 inches that way, 6 inches that way. I've had some problems with this mill when it hits big knots. It usually deflects the blade and you get a little bit of a wavy cut around the knot. I've never cut knots this big, I don't think. This will be a first. Someone suggested I use a brand new blade, which I've done before with same results, plenty of lube, and make sure the blade is tight enough. With the bigger mills, I think there's more of an elaborate blade tensioning system. This one just has a little thing you turn and you line up the thing with the thing. And I have that thing lined up with the way the factory says to line the thing up. We'll start out on this log with the tension set where the factory says to set it. We'll see how it does with that and then go from there. First thing we'll do is cut these knots and these knot swells off flush to the log so they're not in the way. We'll put it on the mill, make our first cut, and see how it looks. I'll also trim off the ends of these logs flush to get them to the right length and clean up the ends. We are all set up. Let's make the first cut, see what happens when it hits these two big knots. Okay, let's see what we ended up with here. That actually doesn't look bad. Yes, I still have the old broom. No, I still haven't gone to the store to get a new broom. Those are actually really smooth. We'll take it down a couple more inches, do another cut, see how that does. Some of the more problematic experiences with knots have been on wider cuts, so we'll see how it does. I can get a 2x8 out of this piece, which is what I'm going for today. That looks like a really smooth cut too. It cut smooth, just as if there wasn't even a knot here. I've just finished telling you guys that I've had problems with this mill deflecting and having wavy cuts over knots. Now that I put it on camera, it cuts as smooth as ever. I think my mill's trying to make a liar out of me. We'll flip this log over, see what the knots on the other side do. Maybe those ones are harder than these. Probably not, but we'll see. Still smooth. I'll drop it down 2 more inches, take a slab off before I turn it on its side. On the side, that's where the real knots are. Maybe that's where it'll cut wavy. I don't have to be a liar. Those of you who have the bigger mills with the hydraulic log turners on it, you're probably smiling right now. If you're not, you should be. Speaking of knots, this has a big knot here, a big knot here. Maybe it will finally cut wavy over those ones. Then you can see what I've been talking about. Moment of truth. Well, those are just as smooth as can be. Can't even tell it went over a knot, it's so smooth. I spent the first part of this video telling you how this sawmill hasn't been doing well on big pine knots. I put it on video and of course it's cutting just as smooth as it can. It's a little like when you take your car into the mechanic, tell him you're having a problem with it, and it runs just fine for the mechanic. This is a cool looking cant though. We'll flip it over, cut the other side. Maybe the knots on the other side will deflect the blade. This video did not turn out the way I expected it to. It was supposed to be a video about diagnosing why this mill doesn't cut straight through knots, but it performed flawlessly today. Instead, you got to watch me cut a log up into lumber. It's hard to diagnose a problem when there is no problem. I think that's what we call a high quality problem. Here's what we got out of it. 2 2x10s, 1 2x12, 3 2x6s, 10 2x8s, 1 2x8 with some bug holes in it, a 1x8 and a 1x4. Not too shabby for one log. The deer have started making circles around me. I think they're trying to remind me that it's their turn to have the mill. They like laying in the damp sawdust in the heat of the afternoon, which is about the time I'm ready to quit milling anyway. We have a good arrangement. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Give me a like if you would. Subscribe to the channel. We have more videos coming up. See you on the next one.